Okay, so I made a video yesterday, and prior to uploading it, I had a minor epiphany, as many of us do that are constantly tweaking their pedal board or pedal desk, as I'm thinking I've come to coin that term for my setup here. It's a pedal desk. I brought my, it's on the floor here. I brought out my Morley little Alligator. I wanted my volume pedal back, and the reason I haven't had it on is because the treadle was messed up. I had to, and the way you get in there to get underneath, I had to dig out my toolbox and all that. It's just too lazy to fix it. But yesterday I wasn't. I pulled it out and I got it fixed and dug out some cables, etc., and got it hooked up again. But what I was doing is I was going out of the LA2A to the floor and then back up from the floor up into the Nano Cortex, which works fine. However, that just added, because I have to run, 10-foot cable there, 10-foot cable, that added 20 feet of cable. And I'm pretty sure it's buffered, and it did sound okay. However, it begged the question. For instance, the Vertex Boost, the way it's used as an expression pedal, if you add a volume pedal to it, it's really not in the chain. So however much cable you're using isn't necessarily affecting your signal path for better or for worse, for greater or less. So short of, buying it, because there's nothing wrong with this Morley little Alligator. Morley stuff, because they do kind of sublime pedals and pedals that are indeed manufactured to last, I see no reason to replace this thing. I like it. I'd prefer to have a linear taper on it rather than an audio taper, but that's just my preference. I don't know if any of you even care about taper, but I do. I prefer linear taper on my guitar pods. I prefer linear taper on a volume pedal, at least for the spacey stuff I do. However, to get back on track, the big idea I had yesterday after making my video, because I did a listen back, I don't think my jams have been particularly good lately, but I'm getting really good sound. And by the way, I can see myself better now. I've worked on my camera settings a little bit. So I am a huge fan of the Tim, the Paul C. Tim, or the Timmy, whichever version. I haven't heard a clone of a Tim or Timmy that didn't sound awesome. I haven't heard a Tim or a Timmy that didn't sound awesome. I'm always a little curious about the greater transparent overdrive world being so hung up on clones and ODRs, and I've even seen some pretty prominent players show distaste for the Tims and the Timmies, and I don't get it because my ears love it. So, and I was so excited when this version 3 was announced, and I didn't jump on the bandwagon partly because they were hard to get a hold of right away when they came out. But the nice thing about that is I didn't pay a crazy price for these, and guess what? I had to refer to the owner's manual for the Tim version 3 before I put the effort in on this. And it looks like they have them on sale right now at Humbucker Music. So if you are even mildly interested in doing what I'm about to talk about, or you're just interested in hearing what a Tim sounds like, great time to get an original from the place that sells them at a good price. Like, it's the holy grail time to buy a Tim version 3 right now. So I love the Tim. I love the Paul C stuff. This is the first time I've ever used a Tim like this. But man, I think it's going to work really well. Now, I just hooked it up to make sure that what I wanted to do, it would do, and it does it. So let's just talk about my signal chain real quick, and then we'll do some little testing here. So going into the pedal 76, into the Muffroom Cloud up to the Tim version 3. And then we're using the effects loop in the Tim version 3 to go down to the floor to my volume pedal and then back up into the Tim. So when I want to use the volume pedal, this was my big idea here. So when I want to use my volume pedal, all I got to do is turn on the boost channel, and now I've got a volume pedal available to me to do volume swells. But when I'm not doing volume swells, which is usually, I just set up my pads with volume swells and then I play over it. So for me, this works amazing. Do my volume swells, turn it off, and now I've got basically a clean boost. Now I took my EQs out because my goodness, if I count all the tone knobs I have in this thing, I probably literally have 50 tone knobs. So if I can't get the sound I want with the roughly 50 tone knobs and infinite more I can get in my software here, there's something wrong. So right now, who knows? Maybe I'll bring some EQ back in at some point. But really, so I can sculpt the tone of the effects loop in the Tim. I can boost it. I believe this is a tilt tone control. I have it turned down though because for volume swells I don't need it to be resonant. I just need it to be nice and smooth. So I just have those two turned down right now, and my volume pedal's in there. I can also use that if I have my volume pedal turned down as a mute. So if I want to mute it, just turn my volume pedal all the way down, and now I've got an instant mute button as well. So amazing for me. Like, it's this epiphany of equipment. Having this Tim, I always felt like I was underusing it because aside from, using a lead boost on occasion, which by the way, for my little setup for home here, I don't really need a lead boost to punch out above a mix because I have ultimate control over my mix. I always felt like I was underutilizing it. So what I decided to do here is really just run the Tim as a clean boost. I'm not really boosting it. It's at unity gain, but I can shape it with the clipping. I can shape it with the high and low cut, flat and low cut filters. I can obviously use the bass and treble if needed. Again, this stuff is going before the Harmony Machine. I think I like the Harmony Machine after gain rather than before it. So Tim's boost / effects loop to the floor, volume pedal back up, going out of the Tim down into the Intelligent Harmony Machine, up to the LA2A, because again, on any sort of octave or harmony or whatever pedal, it's too harsh coming out of, if you ask me. In fact, these things need their own filters or tone controls on them. This one's fairly basic, but I can kind of sculpt it the way I want going into this LA2A and then into the Nano Cortex, and then the rest of it has stayed the same. So that's my big idea, and I just tested it before I started recording here, and it looks like it works. So what I want to do is set up a little jam and see what we got. Oh, by the way, this is another one of those ones. So I've got my Harmony Comet today. It's one of those guitars that, if you ask me, well, I don't know if you ask me, there's only a couple guitars you experience in your life that just picking it up, you're like, ooh, this is something. And I have some really nice guitars, including ones that sound better, play better, have more vibe to them, look cooler. But I was trying to think about this, I've only had a couple guitars in my life, or at least held a few guitars in my life that really said, ooh, there's something. When I was a kid, in the 80s, a friend of ours got a 65 Mustang and a Fender Blackface from their uncle or something like that. that guitar, that Mustang, it felt like the thing was made of balsa wood. I mean, it was just, and hooked up to that blackface Fender, it just had it's a tone I've been going for my whole life since then, that growler tone. It had a certain growl to it that, in all honesty, I've never been able to replicate. So that was the first guitar in my life that had that real vibe to it. Second one I had was that had that vibe. I'm not sure which one came first now that I think about this. It had to been my Martin. I had a Martin. I played it in Milwaukee. It was a Martin SP 0016 RST. It was a grand concert style guitar that replicated the guitars they were making a couple hundred years ago, something like that. But that one had a really delicate, beautiful. I sold an arm to get the thing, and I got a great price on it, by the way. That one I ultimately got rid of because I was too afraid to play it. I was playing in the studio. I had my home studio at the time, and I only brought it out for recording. And there was a point in my life where it's like, why do I have so much money sitting in a closet here? And I do regret selling that one. The next guitar in my life that I got, again, just kind of as a random, was one of the early Eric Johnson Strats. And the reason I wanted it is because it had nitro finish. It was a production, all the production models are a crapshoot. Maybe less so today than they were back then, but it had a 12-inch radius on the neck, and it had no string trees, which is a couple things I wanted out of a Strat. I actually saw Eric Johnson back in the day. I actually saw him open for Rush twice, if you can believe that, back in those tours where he was supporting those albums that he's well known for. So I like Eric Johnson. I had no problem with him. Back then, like me and my crowd were not into pedals at all. So like the whole effect thing with him was something didn't interest us too much, but his Strat did. And the first time I picked that one up, it's like, ooh, and even all my friends, the first time they pick it up, without me telling them it had that effect, they pick it up like, ooh, this is something. It was very light, and it had again, before you even play it, a guitar has a certain thing about it, and leads me to this one. A friend of mine in the Midwest had been talking to me how he wants a 339 style guitar. He's kind of asking me about them. And personally, I said, I don't know why you don't just get a 335. Don't mess around with that. And he's got it in his head that it's some giant thing to play. It's smaller than an acoustic, so I don't see what the big deal is with a 335. But as a result, I did a little searching for like a 339-ish kind of deal. And I don't know if I'd say this is a 339-ish, but this is one of those guitars that comes in your radar if you're looking for those types of guitars. And at the time, obviously this is a Harmony Comet, and they're made, to my knowledge, they're made at the Heritage Factory, which is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So it's the original factory that used to make all the Gibsons. Nitro finish, locking tuners, tilt back headstock, 6 on one side, which I prefer, by the way. It's irritating as hell restringing, for me at least, restringing a guitar that's 3-3. It's got gold foil pickups. It's got, which I thought was a phase switch, but I think it's just is there such a thing as a coil split on these gold foils? I don't know. But it does have a push-pull on the volume. Another interesting thing about this is the down position on this. Man, I cannot figure out my camera. The down position on this is the neck pickup. The up position is the bridge. So it's a little different in that regards. But this is one of those ones where you look at it and you think, it's just another something. I'm not even the biggest fan of the way these F-holes look. They could have done maybe something without more effort, something a little nicer looking. The binding is just white. I wish they would have done some sort of aged binding. But who knows? Maybe it'll yellow naturally over the years. But the moment you pick it up, you think, ooh, this is something. And it is something. It's a guitar I don't play enough. These strings are dead, by the way. So forgive me on dead strings. That's both pickups. And then if you, again, I'm just going to call it a split, but I don't know what the hell it is. It doesn't sound like phase to me. So I guess if you're looking to create some really shiny top end thing, it has a really nice, interesting attack on it. If you got a real dense mix, that might be a good option to try. And you're hearing the microcosm there a little bit, but that's back to normal. Neck. Good voicing on the neck. Again, this is a guitar I probably, now that I'm playing it, I'm realizing why I don't play it as much. This would be a good one if I'm tracking, if I'm trying to put a mix together. Just got a nice little bump in those areas where you can find a home for it to mix. And then bridge. Has a nice top end. It's not harsh. Not harsh and resonant. Now it's going through a 1176 and an LA2A right now, but you hear what I'm saying. Back to both. If these strings weren't dead, it would sound a little more lively, and it's a little dead sounding to me. So I wanted to just kind of, every time I pull this thing out, it's like, oh yeah, this thing's got something. It's got that mojo. It's got that something. I believe it's a 25-inch scale, which also gives it a little bit of something different, I guess. And it's, again, super light guitars do. I hate to say it. I hate to be one of those guys. But yeah, when it's super light, I'm attracted to it. A couple of these guitars I don't play just because they're boat anchors. Even though I'm not sitting on stage with a strap on or anything. I'm just sitting here like a lazy ass. Okay, back to the Tim. I'm using it as just a clean... Okay, now I've got my volume pedal on the floor, which is... So another thing I'm experiencing with this SSL6 is on the stereo Q sends. So I'm going out of them just out of the left side. I'm going out of them in mono. What I'm finding is the balance control on them, or the pan control, is +4 when it's hard left or +4 when it's hard right. And I would assume they do that so you don't lose any signal if you're going out of it in mono. So, and the first loop, which is the clone looper and the Starlight, let's solo that out here. And yes, I'm not running 100% web because I gotta run the loops through there. So this one, as you can see, I'm boosting it a little bit at the input, but I'm not getting any sort of distortion. Any saturation you get's a cumulative effect. Let's just take the volume pedal out of it for now. experiment. So as you can hear, there is a difference. And yes, I have the tilt control down, but okay, alternately, my spacey side, which is the cue send number 2, as you can see, this is the pan control for the send number 2. If I send all the signal to the left output, which would be, just simply like panning it, it's overloading something. Here, can you hear it already? So I've had to take that 4 dB out, and also take whereas I have to boost this by whatever that is, 6-10 dB. This one I have to leave at unity gain, and I still a little distorted coming in. So this is one of those things I've been trying to fix. I don't mind a little. Here, let's do that. I don't mind a little bit of that saturation. Sorry, I muted myself. I'm muting myself because I'm trying to do a pre-fader listen and just listen to it at the input here. So give me a second. So if you look at my meters here, can you see them very well? I got a terrible refresh rate on this setup. Audio's good enough, so I don't care about the video part. But if you look, it's still a little bit weaker at the input, but it's the best balance I can get between that saturation I'm getting. If it continues to bother me, I'm gonna see if I can bring in the EQ on the channel here and clean that up a little bit, but it's a little thing I've been fighting on the side, but in any case. Okay, back to the volume pedal. So again, couple little sound examples of, okay, so volume pedal up. This is straight through the TIM without it engaged. It's nice, clean, and there is a difference. And that difference is probably about 20 feet of cable, which is much more apparent in my headphones. How apparent is it going to be on the back end, which I can't hear right now because there's too much latency. I mess myself up constantly if I don't listen right out of the mixer. So I'm monitoring before ultimately what you're hearing there. So, but in any case, let's try and set up. That's the big epiphany. Volume pedal in the loop of the TIM version 3 is awesome for this setting. And man, I got to tell you, I don't know how many other gain pedals have a loop like this in them. But for me, being an ambient / spacey, whatever the hell you call my stuff I do, this is like perfect, because once I'm done setting up that I'm taking that 20 feet of cable and extra pedal out of it, and then it's passing right through, which should give me a cleaner, sweeter. I've been using the word sweet lately. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to make up fancy words for whatever tone I'm hearing in my head, but I think that it kind of makes me so I'm not I don't feel like I'm now. If the only thing I feel like I'm wasting with the Tim is that I'm not using the gain on it, which is the reason I like the Tim. I love the way the gain sounds on it. So at some point, we'll see if I can find a happy medium between, because you can't use the boost. So if I turn the thing off, I can also get straight through it. Obviously, the boost is on, and I got the volume pedal down. So in any case, there we go. There's my big epiphany. 25 minutes of babble before I do a jam, so I'll try not to spend too much time with my jamming here. right, so there we go. Perfect solution. And I had all the equipment sitting right here just waiting to be used like this. So I love it when I can find a creative solution using equipment I love, to be honest. I love the Tim. I love the Morley volume pedal. And it was able to incorporate right into this without issue, which is very cool. Made a perfect pad for me. I've got these two guys running into the microcosm. I switched back to one of the mosaic effects, but very sparse if you look at the tempo. And again, I don't know if you'll be able to see the tempo too effectively here, but a very slow tempo going. Otherwise, the microcosm gets very busy in the background. And again, the trick here is to leave the space in between if you can. I've got a ton of sustain. Even on my Jaguar, I've got a ton of sustain right now. The way in which I'm using compression here. So I don't really need to have a lot of density going on when it comes to stuff in the background, which is pretty cool. I'm getting very good results right now. So again, I'm having these epiphanies here as I really get this. Again, I'm going to coin the term pedal desk rather than pedal board, because I'm one of those guys that doesn't need a pedal board, but man, I need a pedal desk. And as I've incorporated my signal chain into this small console, this little SSL6, everything's opened up. You know, I effectively have two parallel loops going, which gives me a lot more control. And SSL6, first off, sounds amazing. Secondly, the options for sending signal any way you can possibly imagine are all there. And I'm not even utilizing probably 20% of the potential of this thing. So really fantastic piece of equipment here. It's better than any 10 pedals I've ever used just to have this thing. One of my visions on this prior to finding the Nano Cortex was to go back to my old studio setup, which would be either going directly into the console via mic'd amp, which I can't do here, or just going directly into the console and then treating the signal via insert or Q-Sense, stereo sends, to see what I could do with the signal, keep it as pure as I can, give it as few stops as possible before you hear it, is going to yield the most tone. So one of the guys who influenced me the most to play guitar is a guy named Yngwie. And if you ever spend any time in the studio, you'll hear a lot of people say less is more. And that's kind of the school of thought I've come from. But Yngwie always reminds me, no, more is more. So again, there's always trying to find a balance between those two things. But the idea here, and as you can see over the last few videos, my pedal board has slowly been building back up again, because I go back and forth with that. Get another idea, add one thing in, have an issue, try adding another compressor in. It goes through these waves where the pedal board gets just too ridiculous and I gotta trim it down and see what I miss. But in the case of this, I might still work towards just having the simplest signal flow I possibly can, and ultimately get better recordings. This is, because tone in the room is not the tone you're hearing. So you got to find a way to either make those feel the same between what you experience in the room and what you experience once you listen to the recording, or you have to abandon that and say it doesn't matter what I'm hearing in the room. What matters is what I'm hearing in the recording. So that's what I go back and forth with, because I really resisted putting a home studio together again. And here I am with this whole other mad scientist side of things, because believe me, if you think the pedal board thing is a monster, you haven't tried putting a home studio together. That's the real monster. And then you get into acoustically treating the room and doing the math on how to EQ a room because of standing waves and other different things. It is all simple math, by the way. I shouldn't call it simple math, but it is all math. If you know how to do the math, you don't need a lot of equipment. You just need a little knowledge. Same thing with music, and that's why I talk about possibly talking about the theory I apply to this setting a little more, but here we go. I'm still babbling, and we're at 36 minutes. So I appreciate your time. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear or see or talk about. Again, I've got more subscribers than I ever thought I would. So I don't know, maybe there are conversations to be had. So let me know in the comments. Thank you.